Because we are changing radiant energy into chemical energy, it does require us to take a look at the electromagnetic spectrum, a brief review, and focus on the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum that is available for living things. Okay, so let's take a look. First, a brief review of your electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, so here we have, you take a look at your different wavelengths of light here. Very, very tiny wavelengths, very, very high energy wavelengths down here in the gamma rays, X rays, ultraviolet light. Okay, very, very damaging to cells, very, very damaging. Okay, down here you've got infrared, radar. Here's our radio waves. Here's our television. Okay, I think cell phone towers are down here in this range somewhere as well. Don't quote me on that. But now we have very long, loping, lower energy waves. Okay, there's only a tiny sliver of this electromagnetic spectrum that is viable for life. This is the part of the spectrum that we can see. We break it down into this is your Roy G. Biv, your red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Okay, this is the visible spectrum, but it's also the living spectrum. Okay, it's the part of our electromagnetic spectrum of energies that living things can function with. The photosynthetic pigments that pick up the energy from these different wavelengths are chlorophyll. There's two forms, chlorophyll A and B, and a series of chemicals, a series of pigments rather, referred to as the carotenoids. Let's take a look at where they do their work. So here we have chlorophyll. Let's take a look at what is this graph. Okay, so light absorption on the vertical axis, wavelength on the horizontal axis. So here we have the shorter wavelength, higher energy on this left-hand side. Okay, the longer wavelength, lower energy on the right-hand side. Notice that both chlorophyll A and B, both very green chemicals. Chlorophyll A is perhaps just a little bit darker. Okay, both of these chlorophylls do a great job of absorbing down in the violet and blue portion of the visible spectrum, and the orange and red portions of the visible spectrum. Okay, they do a great job of either end of that visible spectrum. They'll gather that light and change it from radiant energy into chemical energy. The carotenoids, well, they give us an assist here. Same graph. Okay, same graph. We've got blues, purples, indigos down here. We've got reds and orange up here on the right. Okay, notice the carotenoids. These are oranges, these are reds. These are the pigments that we see in the fall as the leaves are dying. Okay, the carotenoids, notice they grab a little bit of this wavelength that's 500 to a little bit above 500. But if you're a plant and your job is to gather sunlight to survive, the carotenoids will give you just this much of an advantage. The carotenoids grab a little extra wavelength of light. That's the electromagnetic spectrum and how it relates to living things, especially how it relates to photosynthesis.